Next up on the number one tee.
Well, hello, and welcome to your virtual tea time. My name is Tori. I am your host, and this podcast is all things women's golf. We do allow a dude to come, occasionally to share his thoughts and mansplaining with us. And today we have Adam back. Hi, Adam.
Hello. Occasionally is right.
Occasionally. Sporadically.
Sporadic.
I like your bad birdie long sleeve.
Fell off a truck, and I was like, hey, why not?
Just a reminder, this video, or all our podcasts are on video on YouTube. You can check out Adam's palm leaf, black and white, bad birdie long sleeve. It's quite Scottsdale of you.
I like it.
You do?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. I feel like it's hard for a man to pull off like a heavy pattern.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely pattern. Could be considered weed leaves. But
now,
whatever.
when you went into work the first time you wore that shirt, what was the general consensus from the other dudes at the office?
Office full of dudes. 4-1.
4-1.
That was how the comments fell.
Really? Does that affect you wearing that again?
I'm take a stab at what was 4 and what was 1.
Like
positive or negative.
4 negative to everyone.
Correct.
Positive. Yeah. So does that make you feel like, oh, I'm not going to wear that shirt again? I mean, obviously you're wearing it again.
No, I'm all about being weird, so it's fine.
Okay.
I'll take the heat.
And we have Christine Fero back. Hi, Christine.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I'm so glad you're here.
Me too.
So Christine is on a journey. And if you're not following her already on Instagram, it is practice_makes_9. So practice makes 9. And you are sharing your journey on getting to single digit handicap.
Yes.
Which I love.
Mm-hmm.
And it started last June.
Yep. June 30th.
And remind the audience why it started. Because you were on a couple episodes of Hog and you shared, but share with the audience now why you started that and what inspired you to do so. And
yeah. So actually, a month before I decided to do this, Instagram, I was golfing with a friend of mine and she told me she's a single digit handicap. I'm like, well, how long have you been golfing? She's like, oh, about 2 years or so. And I'm like, how did you do that? Like, that's amazing.
Quick. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, I just practiced. I'm like, that's it. That's all you're giving me is you just practiced. So I thought, well, why not like document my journey? Like, I don't know like what it's going to entail or if I'll even get there, but like, I'm just going to document it. And that's how it started. And now as I'm 7 months into it and I'm noticing that the number doesn't really mean as much as the confidence that I've been building and the play that I've been having is 100% better than when I started.
Yeah. Agreed.
Sorry, repeat that one more time. Just so everybody hears
that was a good egg.
It was. Like
the number, the hand.
My handicap number does not matter. What matters is the confidence that I have in playing the game.
Yeah.
So I asked her to repeat that because you guys talk about handicaps all the time and you know how I bash them, or I have before historically.
You don't bash them. You say that you don't want the motivation to be very money driven handicap index driven.
Correct. And she just proved why. So everybody listening, you need to soak that in because she's gaining confidence even though her handicap's not moving. I was wondering what analogy could I give that would make handicaps make more sense? And the best I could concoct, at least to this moment, is handicaps is like a clock. What I mean by that is, do you really care what time it is?
I do. I care what time it is.
Yeah, but I mean, you can get whatever you want done at 5 o'clock, just like you can noon. Just like you can 6 a.m. or whatever time.
What?
It's up to you. That's the point. All it's telling you is what time it is. You make it relevant based on whatever you got in your game plan.
I don't like that analogy.
All right, we'll throw it away.
A new one. We need a new one.
Well,
I can't think of a good one, but that's the best one I could.
How about, I want Christine, why? Well, I'll share why it was important to me do that. To get my handicap index down.
Which is what, by the way, right now?
It's right now, it's about a +1, but by tomorrow it could be, a 3. That's what happens. Who knows?
No, it doesn't move that much, but it's what now?
It's a +1.
Okay.
Which is something I've been working towards for a long time.
Box check.
And the reason why, because I think it holds you accountable. I don't know, it's a constant barometer. Is that the word of what your game is, how your game is,
Barometer.
what's
Synonymous
going
with golf.
on. And if it starts to creep up, I mean, it gets my attention, because I do want to become a really good golfer. Why do you want to become a single digit?
I mean, to be a really good golfer, right? Like, because I know that when I play, like, I am capable of playing in the mid 80s, that I can average in the mid 80s to low 80s. Like, I know that's possible for me.
Absolutely.
And I mean, the other reason why is so that I can start playing in these, big tournaments, to play in amateur tournaments. Like, that's the goal. I mean, I'm young, I'm 39. I have like my whole, like, adult life to keep playing golf. So why not be the best I can possibly be?
Absolutely. Why'd you start golfing?
I don't know. I mean, I love golfing. My dad taught me how to play
really?
when I was like 12, 13. And I don't know.
You just kept with it.
Yeah. I mean, I was like a weekend warrior for a long time until like 2020, 2021. And then that's when I really got serious about it.
Yeah. Now, I met Christine, it's probably 3 years ago and at the time you were still a weekend warrior. Probably you were playing with the men occasionally, with probably your parents still, friends. You hadn't really dipped into the ladies' leagues yet, and that whole world, which is a whole community on itself. And I mean, your first experience at Papago was a rough one for you. Would you mind explaining that? Because I feel like there's a lot of women out there that just play on the weekends, whether it's with their significant other or they're just going out there alone. They don't want to make that leap to playing in the ladies' league because they're scared of how you felt that first time. So what happened and how did we turn it around?
Well, I mean, I have to say that it was all internally, like, me, that was the problem, and it wasn't necessarily like the atmosphere that I was in. But I mean, going to play Papago in a women's league, I mean, it's competitive and there's a lot of great women golfers. And I was not expecting that. Like, I just didn't know that, like, that world was out there. So I step into it and I'm not good. And like, when I'm not good at something, I want to run and I want to like give up.
Yeah.
And so that was the mentality that I had. So I was just like, I don't know if this is for me. And then I started to like get outside my comfort zone and start like opening up like my vision of things. And then it got easier and easier. And then I joined in Canto, and then the ladies were, a little less competitive, and it made me love the game even more.
Yeah. So even though the whole competitiveness of Papago that you can sometimes experience there, you still, like, as of right now, you want to play in tournaments, you want to be competitive, you want to get better. Yeah. So it's interesting how what once kind of shied you away is now what lights your fire.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I always wanted to do that. I just was intimidated for whatever reason.
So you had your first hole-in-one recently? I did. Want to tell us where? What club?
Yeah.
What distance?
It was at McCormick Ranch. It was last Wednesday, January 25th. It was on the Palm course, hole 8, 104 yards. I used my 9-iron.
Did you see it going?
I did not see it go in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was just kind of like messing around, and like I hit the ball and I like walked off the tee box, and my friend is like, I think that went in. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about that. And then the guys behind us were like, yeah, we don't see it on the green. And sure enough, it was a hole-in-one.
Oh my goodness. How exciting. When was your last hole-in-one, Adam? Oh.
I don't care.
No, come on. When was your last hole-in-one?
Nobody cares about hole-in-one stories.
Yes, I do.
I only have 2. Been playing that long and I got 2.
How long have you been playing?
The last one was at Aguila, remember that 5-putt hole? Yeah, that one.
Oh, really?
Yep.
You had a hole-in-one there?
Yep.
Well, that was like hole 14, 15?
13. Magical 13.
That is something Club Pro guy would say, is no one cares about your hole-in-one.
Yeah,
so he's a Club Pro guy fanatic.
Well, I have to say that I was more excited when I broke 90. I'm being 100% honest here. I was more excited when I broke 90, and I can tell you like where that was and what I did, because then that was the turning point where I knew that I could be a good golfer, that it wasn't like I was stuck in the 90s. I wasn't stuck being like, this mediocre golfer. Like I knew that I had the potential, and like that means more to me than a hole in one, because a hole in one is, it's great, but it's luck. It's luck.
But it's still
so the checkpoints again. She just gave you another
especially
nugget.
your first one.
She just gave you another nugget.
I know.
I love 90. The breaking 90 is a big deal. The breaking 80 is a big deal. The breaking, playing an XYZ tournament that you were too nervous about to play in. Those are the big hurdles and checkpoints.
Agreed.
So her story she was talking about with Papago Women's Club. Tell me that doesn't resonate with what you just did the last 2 years.
No, it's about doing those hurdles that.
I didn't want to play in this. I didn't want to play in this. I didn't want to play in this. Now all of a sudden you play in two of them and you're like, whoa.
I know. And you're talking about tournaments. What's your tournament schedule looking like?
Well, I have the Desert Classic, and then I'm doing the Augusta Ranch short course, and then the Mid-Am in July.
I love it.
And then, I don't know if this counts, but I'm playing in the Papago tournament on Friday, the President's Club.
It totally counts.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because other than Desert Classic, you're really embracing the individual stroke play tournaments. I like it.
Yeah.
Do you played in match play?
Yeah.
At Aguila last December.
First time ever. I loved it. It was so good for like my mentality, because if I screwed up on like a hole, big deal. I move on to the next one. And that was just mind blowing for me.
Yeah.
I loved it. And that too is I can go against, it gave me confidence too, because I could go against a scratch golfer and I can compete. I don't know if I'm going to win, but I can compete, and I might beat you in a hole, you know? So it just gave me that much more confidence to keep playing.
Yeah.
And also that's the turning point where I was like, I need to get fitted for woods, because I could not, the yardage was crazy long.
Yeah. So you just went through your first fitting too. What was that experience like?
Great. I went to True Spec, Blake at True Spec. If anybody needs to go there, go ask for him. He's amazing. I went there and I just wanted to get fairway woods, but he's like, well, let's look at your driver. So we looked at the driver, and of course I bought another driver.
Of course.
Yeah. And it was a little a lot of information going into it. They told you about your ball speed and all the stuff that I had to.
No, it's so many numbers.
Yeah. But what I realized is with the clubs that I was using is that I was I had massive gaps in my yardage. And so that's what he helped me with, is to get the right clubs so I didn't have those gaps in my yardage.
Give us an example.
So I didn't have a 150 yard club in my bag. And so there's no way I would ever get on the green in 150 yards. But now I do. I have a 9 wood. I never even thought a 9 wood. What is that? But that's what I use now, is a 9 wood.
And so you just got your new clubs, probably a month ago or so?
Yeah.
And how was it uncomfortable at first using them? How has your experience been with them? And because you did get a new driver, and then you got a bunch of new woods. How about hybrids?
No hybrids. I couldn't, we tried them. Just, it's not
your thing.
Not my thing right now. Actually I hit them great. I know people say that there's that, that period where you're not going to hit well, you got to go to the range, but I don't know. It's helped my game tremendously.
Well, that's a good segue into getting to what we're going to talk about today, which is keeping stats on the during your golf rounds. So just with that example, getting, narrowing those gaps in yardages with your golf bag and your clubs, what differences have you seen just by keeping your stats? Because you keep a good amount of stats during every round. You share them on your Instagram stories too. So what changes have you seen?
Greens in regulation are huge difference. So before I had, I think maybe 12%. I was hitting greens in regulation in each round, and now it's not a significant number, but it's 25 to 30% that I'm hitting greens in regulation.
I would say that's pretty significant change.
Yeah. let's start here. What stats did you first start when you first started keeping them? What did you first take?
She would use the round report card. So we're looking at the round report card, which I did just personally want to go through during this episode, just so if anyone's using it for the first time, they kind of know what we're talking about and how to use it. I personally, when I keep my stats, I like to write them down. There are numerous apps out there or ways you can do it on your cell phone. I just would prefer to write it down and, feel that paper, and it keeps me focused too.
Yeah. I was using the apps for a while and I don't like using them now because I can see like what my score is and like what my total is. And then it gets in my head like, oh shit, like I gotta shoot bogey or I gotta shoot par to like get the number that I want. And like, I don't want to deal with that. So now I just write everything out and then tally it up at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go through the round report card. Adam, what do you think for, just to get started? First of all, why is keeping stats something that you should consider doing regardless of your skill level, how long you've been playing, handicap index? Why is it important?
Well, yeah, that's what I was trying to get out of Christine. And so stats are like a handicap, right? Everybody should have one, but you should be more concerned with your stats than your handicap because the stats tell you where you're at and can tell you where you need to go. Handicap doesn't really do that.
That's true.
We're not going to dive into that, but right off the top is fairways, greens, putts. Any and everybody can do that. That's simple stuff. And you really should know that because if you care at all, how else would you know what you need to look at? Like I'm going to tell you yours here in a minute. So spoiler alert. Tori gave me some of her tournament rounds last year. Not all of them, but some of them, maybe half. And so I tabulated hers. She thinks she can't hit fairway. She thinks her problem's driver. We're going to find out if that's true. But
and just to rewind again, when Adam first started looking at my round report cards after important rounds, I would be like, if my driver would just be behaving, I would be so much better.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, he's probably looking at the round report card and it said I hit like 5 greens.
Exactly. So she's whining, complaining, just bitching and moaning to no end. Like my driver, I'm going to break it. I'm going to Hulk smash it. I can't play golf because I can't hit a driver. I'm like, do you realize? And I did. I asked her, I said, okay, what's the average driving distance on LPGA? Do you still know?
That's like 235, 240.
It's a lot. Yeah. It's a little north of 240. And what's hers? It's north of 240. So she's hitting it literally as far as an LPGA player. And she thinks that's her problem. No. You look at her stats and she's got like no putts. I mean, she's making all sorts of putts and she's hitting 4 greens. Well, how in the hell are you going to get better hitting 4 greens? Where's your birdie opportunities? When you hit a green, how far are you away? So those are the things that are going to tell you. Like you might think like here, again, Tori, seasoned player, one of the best in the state, best nationwide, had no clue what was wrong with her. She had this idea in her head of what was wrong with her. So if you are trying to get better, that's the only way you're going to get real data because your brain will fool you.
Well, and just to give a little insight to my driver, I get the yips with my driver at times to where I stutter in my backswing. And so when the driver goes awry and I'm having those rounds where I have the yips, it ruins my confidence in everything else. I'll get up to 100-yard, gap wedge and it's just, I can't hit the shot all of a sudden,
It ruins your experience, but it does, you're lying to yourself again.
I know. I'm just saying, like Christine mentioned earlier, it's an internal thing.
Mm-hmm. I agree because that happens to me. If I don't hit a good tee shot, then like my mentals get all messed up. And like, I think that's the difference between like an LPGA, a pro player and an amateur player is that if they have a bad shot, they just move on and,
No, absolutely. So that's where I was at a year ago.
Yes. Okay. And your driver does get nasty, but there's workarounds. There's things like hitting 3 woods and 5 woods and whatever hybrid off the tee to keep it in play. And this is going now segueing into the Lou's show because Lou had a lot of great stuff in there, but Lou emphasized the importance, or I should say lack of hitting fairways. He's like, look, it's going to vary between 50 and 55% for almost everybody. The big difference maker is how many greens are you hitting?
But let's back up again about fairways, because again, Lou said that, and even John said it in a previous episode. And now I really see it firsthand myself too. Fairways are not that important as greens in regulation, but also depending on the course you're playing. Like for instance, when I'm playing Papago, I'm cutting corners and going different directions to where I'm not even aiming at the fairway.
Exactly.
You know, I'm aiming to just certain areas to where I'm hitting my target, but it's not even the fairway. So,
right. So
it also can depend on the course.
100% course dependent. And so that's another thing that you can do with these stats, because remember, you can make these yours, right? So if you hit a perfect drive exactly where you're aiming, wherever course you're playing, and it goes exactly where you want to, but it's not in the fairway, you can give yourself a fairway because you just executed the shot exactly how you want it to.
Mm-hmm.
So you can keep track of things like that and not have to be so specific. Like on PGA and Shot Tracker, if your ball is 1 inch on the fringe, that's not a green. If your ball is 1 inch off the fairway, that's not a fairway, because it's hardcore stats that the PGA needs to keep. That's not what we're doing. We're doing amateur hours. You know, this is for you, make it yours. But that's what can help you, because, hey, if you do play one of those courses where there's no difference between the fairway and the rough, it's just all the same. In so many courses, you go to a Lehman design or a Palmer design where the fairways are huge. You know, you can land gigantic 747s on them, and it's just fairway or desert. Okay, well, does hitting 12 out of 14 fairways help you? No, you could have been on the wrong side of the fairway a whole bunch of times. You know, you could have topped the ball half the time. So again, fairways is the least relevant.
You know, a top is one of my misses, and it will land on the fairway, and I will mark fairway, even though it went only 35 yards.
Right.
Yeah.
Make it yours.
It's a fairway.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Oh, no, a top is mine.
It's happened. So yeah, moving to the important parts though, fairways, greens, putts, that's going to tell you a decent amount. You know, the round report card, you know, that was revamped and added some things to it. Hopefully we'll get into those. You know, you can go as far deep into it as you want, but you really do need to start with fairways, greens, and putts. That's the simplest stuff.
So going back to your greens hit, Christine, you said you went from about 12%,
12%, yeah,
up to 25 to 35%. How have your scores fluctuated at all? Or are you seeing like greens are getting better, but you know, now my putting needs a little more work, or how are you looking at it?
I mean, yeah, my putting needs work. So I've gone to a couple of lessons, and so we've decided that the good range for me right now for putts is between 32 and 35 putts per round, or 36.
How'd you come to that number? Like what? So tell me about the lesson that you took.
I'm not exactly sure how she got to that number, but just the way that like where my ball would land during practice and when I was chipping and pitching, it was about, we noticed it was like 8 feet or so from the hole, like maybe 10 to 8 feet from the hole. So then we decided, okay, like what would be the appropriate amount of putts from that to get into the hole.
Yeah.
So 2 putt.
Yeah.
So that's back to the loose stuff. So
in regards to like,
well, just for the people listening, if you haven't heard the Lou show,
which is episode 7.
So yeah, he does a pretty deep dive. I mean, shit, he even starts going into strokes gained on how to calculate.
Oh my
that.
God. I still don't understand strokes gained.
And that's really fun for nerds. So like
but I feel like I'm a nerd.
You are a nerd, but
I still don't understand it.
You're a millennial, so your attention span's not
long.
as good to get into that.
Long.
But
I'm
if
a millennial
you are,
with ADHD,
for the people that are, that's the stuff that you'll have fun for years with if you get into it. But we're not here to do that. Let's keep it 101.
Yeah.
But what she's identifying is exactly right. You got to know how far you are before you set that expectation. And so you can design, is 32 putts okay? Is 35?
Well, let's get into, is there anything else that we want to talk about with greens and regulation? So if we're looking at the round report card right now, and if you haven't seen it, it's in the show notes. You can download it. And this could be used for any course, any round. So you're going to fill in the par on the top row, and then the score will be the second. You'll move down to fairway, whether or not you hit the fairway. And then I have a slot where you can put, you know, what direction you missed in, if you want to keep that. There's also a spot for yards in. That that I like to use because, again, especially if you're doing a practice round or you're playing your home course, you can really see what clubs you're using the most at a certain club. So, for instance, if I'm playing Arizona Country Club and I go to warm up, I know I'm going to be practicing my 60 degree, my 56, and my gap wedge the most during that warm up because that's going to be 80% of my approach shots for that course. So, so there's a slot for yards in and club used. Then you move down to greens and regulation. And again, if you miss the green, you can mark down where you missed it, whether it's left, right, short, deep. And then we move to the putt, the putting row. So I put first putt distance. Again, I find that interesting because, again, if we're going to mark down how many putts we had, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, I want to know what that first putt distance was. So I 3-putted, but I was 50 feet away. Okay, well, that's that's a tough 2-putt. Or I 1-putted. Well, what's the distance that I made on that? 10, 12 feet. So, but you don't particularly like those.
Yeah, let's stop there. I think that's a good stopping point through the putts, and then we'll get to the bottom ones in a minute. So touching on we talked about the fairways, and is it relevant if you hit a perfect tee shot to mark it as fairway if it runs through the fairway, or just simply goes 50 yards closer because you just cut the corner or something. Usually doesn't happen in Chick-fil-A, but it does. Mm-hmm. So that's how you want to categorize it. You can mark it as a fairway if you hit the right shot, the correct shot, or don't. Same with greens and regulation. I mean, if you hit a ball to 15 feet and it's in the fringe, but you hit it where you wanted to, and you're hitting a putt, your next one, isn't that the equivalent of hitting it 15 feet on the green and hitting a putt? Mm-hmm. It is for me.
Yeah.
So for me, if I'm within 2-3 feet of the actual green, but still on the fringe, I will count that as a green.
I like that because I get so hung up on what is the official.
The official is technically all the way on the green or all the way off. But would you rather hitting a putt from 30 feet on the green or 12 feet from the fringe?
12 feet from the fringe.
Okay. So,
well, and also I just say to myself, I'm just going to be consistent with it. So my stats are consistent. Yes. So if I'm going to consistently say that is on the green, even though it's 1 foot off, then I'm going to be consistent every time I keep my stats too. 100%
that you should be consistent because, again, this is meant for that to give you the data so you know what you're looking at, that you know where you need to work on. And sliding into the first putt distance, that is very important because, yes, you want to know on average, okay, when I am hitting a green, how far do I average? Now, maybe you don't want to do that calculation. It's too nerdy. It's too much time. You're not interested. Fine. But at least you got it. Mm-hmm. You can look at it. And the total putts obviously matters because you need to know how many total putts you're having. And distance made actually is a pretty cool feature. I mean, if you do that and you only really take 3-4 rounds after you walk off your putts, and you'll see that you don't make much outside of about 10 feet. Yeah. But the other thing that I'll comment real quick is just directional. To me, directional is irrelevant, but I know for some people it is relevant. It's irrelevant for me because if a pin is back right and I miss right, that's a really bad miss because I'm aiming left. But did I miss the green? Did I miss the pin to the left? Yeah, but I meant to. You see what I mean?
When you just said that, though, that's the difference between a really good player and a somewhat good player. Like when you said you missed right on a right pin, I'm thinking, well, duh, you're aiming right. And he's like, no, I'm aiming middle of the green.
Yes, I'm aiming.
Like worst spot ever to miss would be right.
Short side. You don't want a short side. And then, again, coming back to my buddy Lou, he was talking about how bad numbers go up when you short side yourself on greens that are undulated, right? If there's a 2 feet differential and so many greens, you play like a Donald Ross where you have, crowned greens, or a Jack Nicklaus course where he's got, runoffs all the places. If you short side yourself on one of those, you're going to do really well to get down in 3 from there.
Yeah.
You ain't getting up and down. You're going to take 3 to 5 shots.
Yeah.
Because you wanted to go after some stupid pin. Yeah. No, be smart, play to the middle of the green, make the game easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So again, when we're talking about directional things, does it matter that you missed the fairway left when that's where you were aiming? Does it matter that you missed a pin to the left when that's where you were aiming? No. And I know for me, who's played far too many rounds to count, I kind of know by the end of that round, was I generally missing the ball right or left?
Yeah. Do you use the directional? Or does it matter to you
I have used it just to keep it, but it does not matter as much.
I want to touch on what Adam just said because it helps me a lot. He said, make the game easy. And something as simple as that statement, make the game easy, has helped me a ton because, again, when I am looking at a decision on the golf course on whether to be aggressive or to lay back or just pondering a decision I need to make where to aim on a green, I think make this easy on yourself, and that's helped me a ton on tee shots because more times than not, I want to pull out the driver than anything else. But on a lot of these courses, if I just lay up, use a hybrid, a wood off the tee, that is plenty. I might still have 100 yards or less into the green. And that would be a lot easier than using a driver and getting myself in the desert or in trouble. So just that comment, Adam says, make it easy on yourself. Or how do you say it? Make it easy. Make it easy. Make it easy today.
So, we're talking generally speaking, right, in the show about how to get your handicap down, how to make yourself better. Mm-hmm. As much as anything that took you from whatever you started at, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3 years ago to now +1, as much as all of that is the strategy. She learned how to stop being so aggressive somewhat.
Yeah.
But, if she were to look at the players that she's competing at, the Lees and the Kimmies and the coach, Robin, right? Mm-hmm. When have you ever seen Robin make a dumb shot?
Never.
Now, for you other girls in your clubs, you're like, Jesus, I hit the ball further than Barb. Why is she beating me? Well, Barb doesn't do dumb shit.
Yeah. Barb knows her game.
She knows her game. She knows who she is. And guess what? If she can't carry it 200, she's not going to try.
Mm-hmm. Even though she did it once before.
Did it once, so what? But that's how you get better. That is the fastest way to get better because I can tell you, you look at your clubs and your wear pattern is pretty similar to what it was 2 or 3 years ago. You're not hitting the ball magnificently better.
Meaning where the ball is hitting my club head is still on the toe. Toe-ish. Yeah, that's generous. But yes, that is the point. Yeah. I would actually say that my game has gotten better because I'm just getting smarter on the golf course for sure.
And that's the way that I guarantee you that Christy and everybody else will be able to shave 3 to literally 7 shots off a round.
Yeah. And Christine, you've been playing now Papago and Encanto pretty consistently now for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Have you found yourself playing certain holes a certain way now? Like you're learning how to get around those courses easier?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just as an example, when we played team on Monday at Paradise Valley, I knew that those greens were going to be fast and I had played there before. Mm-hmm. So I knew to lay up. Because if I laid up, my ball was going to roll onto the green. Yeah. Now, I didn't exactly execute that, but that was the mindset that I had. Yeah. That prior knowledge.
And you played well on Monday, huh?
I did.
That's nice.
I did.
Well, I know being on team, making the cut has been very significant for you, important. It's one of your goals. Mm-hmm. And so now you've been there a couple times now. Is it worth it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's worth it.
I bet it's helping you with your game too. Mm-hmm. Competing against other women, new courses.
Yeah, definitely just getting that experience playing with people that I've never played with before. And then the match play, because again, that's something that's new for me. And then, playing different courses. Yeah. Great.
So you broke 90 not long ago, right?
Yeah, April.
Mm-hmm. So what is your lowest right now? Lowest score?
85. No, okay. 86.
86. So yeah, you're locked in on 80. Like you want to get to 80. You want to break 80.
She will. Yeah. I told her once the weather breaks, I think she will start playing her best golf for sure. Because, I mean, considering you're playing really well now when it's freezing cold out and not that much fun to swing a golf club in 45-degree weather and 50-degree weather, once the weather breaks and it's warm and the ball's going a little further and, you still have all this practice that you're stacking up on. And
I've never seen her hit a ball. I didn't see your IG. I don't know how good or bad your swing is, but just knowing that you know this and understand this and that you're where you're at right now, shooting 86 as your low, with the practice you're putting in, I'm willing to make a bet, and I've never even seen you swing, that you'll break 80 this year.
I can't wait. She's going to be on the pod when she does.
Because as soon as you know this stuff and as soon as you start understanding what you can and can't do, you're going to see strokes shaving off pretty quick.
Yeah. Let's get into another part of the round report card when you go to download it is that we have these examples of, okay, if you are between a 10 and a 19 handicap index, how many fairways or how many greens is a good goal? You know, like this is not necessarily averages, but what is a good goal to have? So I wanted to go through this. Sorry, I'm the only one that has it on the table right now. But I'll quickly go through it. We have sections of 0 to plus, 1 to 9. Again, these are handicap indexes, 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 plus. So for fairways, we said, I'm just going to do between 10 and 19, 40% fairways is a good goal. So what is that? When you're really only hitting 14 fairways around? 14?
Well, fairways. There's only 14 fairways.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Okay. So what's 40% of 14?
It's hitting 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah. So if you're between a 10 and 19, then that's a good goal to have. Now, greens in regulation, we said 8 plus. Does that sound fair?
That's a lofty goal.
Yeah. Well, they're goals.
But they're goals. Reasonable and respectable. Now, before you get all the way through, you should explain the last two real quick.
Well, yeah, we're going to go through opportunities and throwaways soon. Separately. But then putts, again, for a 10 to 19 handicap index, we said 34 or less is a good goal. Again, I would say these goals are like best, 20% of your rounds that you have.
Yeah, using the term goal is good. And again, if you go back to the Lou show, his bar is much lower from the data he's assembled and looked at and studied. So, but these that you have on there are achievable. They're good goals to have.
And then finally, feet and putts made, which we haven't gone over yet on the round report card. We said 50 feet or more. Have you been tracking your amount of feet made for your putting distance?
I had been off season, but now that we're in season, I just count the putts.
The number of putts.
The number of putts.
Adam, why is it important to count? Because this was a new stat for me that I started when you told me to start, is the amount of putting distance made. So for instance, if you have a one putt from 10 feet, then you just made 10 feet worth of putts.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it's really quick and easy thing to calculate because you got to walk to the hole to pick your ball out anyway. So walk it off. Mm-hmm. And after 3-4 rounds, you're going to get it.
Just eyeball it. Yeah.
And no, you don't need to be that specific because frankly, nobody cares. This is for you, but you're going to get an idea of, hey, when you're assessing again, one of your competitors' rounds and you're like, holy cow, it's easy to recall them, right? You walk through the round and you say, well, how did this chick beat me? Well, Jesus, she made that 30 footer on this hole. And then she made another 20 footer on this hole. And then she made another 15 footer on this one. You count them up and like, well, she made 75, 80 feet of putts. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to get to 100. Nobody gets to 100 very often.
Yeah.
So anyway, we can talk about what's good and what's bad later, but it helps you to identify, hey, maybe I had an off day, but at least I still made 35 feet. Well, think about that. Yeah, 18 holes, 2 feet a hole.
Yeah.
That's 36 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So when you add these up, I think you're going to see that, getting north of 50s is a bit of an accomplishment. You're like, that's not really that impressive. I mean, you can make a 50 footer on one hole.
Yeah. But it tells a tale of the round.
Yeah. So again, to answer your question, it tells a tale and you can get an idea of, was my putting really an issue? Because you're going to have the total number of putts you had and how many feet you made. And if you have the bigger the number you have, probably the less feet that you have.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So 2 new roles on the on the round report card are throwaways and opportunities. So I want to get into these especially. Have you been using those rows at all? Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's explain them. It's brand new on this new version of the round report card. What would you classify as an opportunity, Adam?
I count an opportunity anything inside of about 18 feet for me. Now, if the greens are a little more undulated, I might take that down to 15.
But for a birdie putt, though. So you have a birdie putt within 18 feet. You mark that down as an opportunity.
Right. And the reason why I count those is, again, as a added layer of information on top of your greens in regulation. Well, hitting 60% of your greens in regulation, useful information, right? But how far did you average? Well, you can find that out from your total feet of putts, your first distance putts. but then how many could I really have made? Really could have made. Because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, one of the things that annoys the hell out of me is when I hear these guys, well, God, if this putt just would have dropped. Well, dude, you're 25 feet away. Do you have
Mhm.
any idea how frequently you make those?
Yeah.
You don't. That's not a makeable putt. You know, Lou will give you the numbers. It's uglier when you really dig into it. But, you know, the opportunity says, okay, well, if I'm going to make more birdies, well, how do you make more birdies? You can't do it by giving yourself 2 chances around.
Yeah.
Because you're probably only going to make one, if that. So how else are you going to, well, that's when you realize, hey, I can't get better by making more birdies because I don't hit the ball close enough. I make my score come down by making less mistakes. So that segues maybe into the throwaways, which to me is the most important category for me personally. And I think for anybody who's really trying to get better, single digit or better, because that's where you're giving, and for me, it's giving shots away. Now, for a 10-20 handicapper, you're not giving shots away, but you're making mistakes that maybe you couldn't have. You know, that's where you can reduce and go from that 18 to 10 really fast. And I think you just posted something from Lou or somebody.
No, and I want to read that. So again, you segued pretty quickly. So opportunities is when you are within 15 feet.
15 feet is a good number.
With a birdie putt.
15 feet for a birdie is, and again, even if you're a 20 plus handicapper, you're going to make a couple 15 footers every now and then.
Well, and that's within 15 feet.
And
so,
if you don't, again, that's not a bad thing because you can go look at the numbers. You're not going to make a lot of 15 footers, but at least you know how many times can you get it inside 15 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So if nothing else, you can count how many times have I got within that realm. Because if you're getting angry that you can't make birdies, but you're averaging 25 plus feet, you just suck. You're not going to make them.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not. You're not. Yeah. If you don't give yourself a chance, it's a law of large numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So what you posted was a really good one.
So we're going to get into the throwaway section, which is the second to last row on the round report card. And I posted this on my Instagram story this morning, and it says, golf is like tennis in that you have unforced errors. Here are 4 unforced errors you need to minimize and eliminate. 1, putts missed from 5 feet or less. 2, 3 putts. 3, 2 chips, which I've never heard of. 4, missing greens from inside 100 yards. So this guy, Mike Burry, which I've been trying to get on the podcast now. I've attempted multiple times and he's not responding. So if anyone knows at Mike Burry Golf, let him know that we want to chat. But I love the stuff he posts. But basically, he is listing 4 examples of a throwaway.
Right.
Okay. So I believe, so we have a cheat sheet with the round report card that gives you kind of a list of what a throwaway can be considered. And I'm going to just go through these really fast too. Out of bounds, penalty shot. So anytime you're taking a drop, unplayable, sideways or backwards punch out. So you've put yourself in trouble and you just need to go sideways to chip it out. Bogey within 100 yards. Again, this is all relative to your handicap index. So it might be a double bogey from within 100 yards. 3 putts from inside, I say 50 feet here. Probably should change
40.
that to 40 feet.
Yeah, 40 or 50 is fine.
Yeah, so 3 putts within 40 feet. So if you're over that, yeah, that's really hard to 2-putt. Putt missed within 3 feet.
Right. So your buddy who's shunning you,
Mike Burry.
We're not saying the name. That's off.
Oh,
that's off limits.
Should we bleep it out?
Bleep it out.
Okay.
We're going to edit that.
All right.
So until you start responding. So, but inside 5 feet, I mean, obviously you're going to make the majority of putts inside of 5 feet, or you need to be. But that's at 4 and 5 feet, you're going to start missing some.
You mean within 3 feet, you're going to make the majority, but when you go to 4 to 5 feet, yeah.
Right. So I disagree there, but that's why I put, and again, this is a category that I'm taking credit for because I'm the one that showed you. But,
absolutely.
But here's, one of the things you asked me was, does it make sense to adjust that, adjust it to your skill level? Mm-hmm. My answer is no. And the reason why is because this will be, again, that barometer we talked about, similar to a handicap that lets you know how close you're getting. So if you go through 5-10 rounds and you see by this metric, you're throwing away 8 shots per round. Okay, you know where you're at. Now all of a sudden, when you start reducing those and you get down to 6 or 5, trust me, that'll get reflected in your scoring average. Mm-hmm. And so I don't like the idea of reconfiguring the throwaway category, because I think that's the barometer you need. And again, I'm going to go back to our buddy Lou. One of the most profound things he said, there was two that stuck out to me, is one is play, more forward tees, right? He talked about how the average woman only hits it 175, and so therefore that equates to a yardage of 4,500, and there's just not that many tees out there. 4,500, they start at what, 5?
Well, I mean, it varies.
So anyway, that's a side note, but that's one thing that I would highly encourage the listeners to do, is go up to the beginning of the fairway. Don't hit back at the forward tee if it's too far for you.
Yes, especially for the beginner.
For the beginner, right?
Beginner, you can start wherever you want.
You can start wherever you want, but what he said matters, and that is go as far forward as you can until you can break 80.
Yeah.
Get some confidence and then stake one back.
And I think that would go for both men and women.
It goes for everybody.
But
everybody.
Yeah.
It's more applicable to you guys because you don't have those tees that are adequate.
Yeah, typically women don't have as much power as men to hit it further. But
coming back to where we I think wanted to go, and there's the other profound thing he said is, again, that's where all your higher handicaps are really bad. It's not that you're hitting not enough fairways. It's that you're throwing a ball out of bounds. You're throwing it in the water.
Yeah.
You're 3-putting from 10 feet. And keep in mind, people that are 15 plus handicaps are generally not playing in tournaments. They're generally not having to putt everything out. So they're doing a lot of scooping inside of 3-4 feet.
I love that term, scooping.
Scooping?
Yeah. He likes to call me scooper.
Scoops scoops across the table here. She'll, if she misses, she rams them in pretty good. She's Arnold Palmer pace or Phil Mickelson or worse. And if that 3-footer doesn't go in, there might be a 3 or 4 footer coming back that doesn't get to get hit.
Yeah, that's a scoop. That's a scoop situation.
We're mad enough. We had enough. We're going to the next tee.
Yeah. Let's scoop it up and go to the next one.
We're Hulk smashing on the next tee.
Yeah.
Sometimes those 4-footers coming back are going to get missed. But my point, it needs to be emphasized, is that is, again, the biggest, easiest, lowest hanging fruit for people to improve.
Yes.
Stop hitting it out of bounds. If you can't hit
aim away.
If there's a water thing over there, go the other way.
Yeah.
If there's a fairway bunker you can't get it out of, if there's a pot bunker on this particular green that it took you 5 to get out of last time, don't go in it.
Yeah. And so that, again, is in that throwaway category. So anytime you have to take a penalty shot or you go, out of bounds out of bounds and lost ball could be the most penalizing of.
Well, of course, that's the biggest one.
Yeah.
I had 2 out of bounds at Encanto on Thursday.
Brutal.
And I would have shot mid 80s if I didn't do that.
Wait, let me guess. On hole 17?
And 18.
Nice.
Yep.
I've done that. Adam's done that too. Adam, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't play desert golf in the city.
Yeah.
So there's the out of bounds there.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right into the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's still a ball floating down 15th Ave somewhere.
Yeah. Number 9. Just going right down. Okay, so there's that. And again, Adam always tells me when he goes out and plays his rounds, he is most content. I don't want to go too far and say happy, Adam, but you are most content when that throwaway row is 1-0.
Yeah, if I get through a round and I don't have any throwaways, I care if I shot 75, but not really. I know that I pretty much I played to my ability. I didn't give anybody anything. Mm-hmm. And again, that will be reflected with anybody who does that, is you're going to see that the lower that number, the happier you are.
Yeah. Okay, we got to wrap things up, but Christine, what do you know now that you wish you knew maybe back in June when you started this journey, or even 2 years ago?
I would say I don't know how to put this, but like my handicap number does not determine if I'm a good golfer or not.
Yeah,
correct.
Like it really doesn't, because like I said, I've improved so much from 7 months ago, and my handicap has kind of like did a little ebb and flow.
Yep.
So my golf self-worth is not reliant on my handicap.
Amen. It's not really golf, not even just golf self-worth. It's just self-worth in general.
Yeah.
We have all been victim of feeling terrible when we don't golf well. Bad golf equals you're a bad person.
Which is not true.
That is way too harsh.
It is not true.
That you have felt that.
No,
It is something we have felt.
the golf gods are the golf gods.
But I'm not saying it's correct.
No, it ain't correct. You guys need to calm, chill.
Oh, you know what? I wish Christine knew a little bit more about your golf behavior, Mr.
Hey,
3 hybrid helicoptering through the sky. Okay.
Do we get to your numbers? We don't get to your
No,
numbers?
we can't get to the numbers because we've already gotten the notice. I mean, someone else is coming in.
Ouch.
Christine, thanks for being here today. Again, you are an inspiration. Please keep sharing. I know some social media is weird, you know, like it can make you feel weird and doing it, but I think you're doing an amazing job. I love watching you. You're going to be on the podcast again, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Especially when you break 80, but maybe even before that.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, I love you being here. Adam, thanks for being on. You're our resident dude. Occasional dude. Thanks, guys. Be sure to check out the show notes for all the details on today's show. If you haven't already, please give a 5-star written review on your favorite podcast platform, or even screenshot this episode and send it to your golf buddies. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you on the first tee in a couple days.